way to go. Call them today, 404-259-1343, or you can email them at support@the.experiment.com for a free consultation. Don't waste your money buying tech stuff and tech software that you don't understand and don't know how to use. Contact the Dot Experiment, the professionals in fixing all your stuff, man. So before you buy that cell phone, before you get that computer, contact the Dot Experiment. It's the only way to go. I'm telling you, that's how we rolling over here.
Give it to me, do it to me, give it to me. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. The way you make me feel.
Do you like music like this? That's right, I'm asking you. Do you like music like this? Then why have you not been to Sophisticated Saturday as yet? That's right, each and every third Saturday of the month, we call it Sophisticated Saturdays. Where we keep it at? Caribbeanlifetv Studios. 6254 Memorial Drive is the only place to be each and every third Saturday of the month. So if you want to celebrate your birthday, if you just want to come hang out and have some fun with grown people having big fun, Sophisticated Saturdays is the only place to be. It's brought to you by yours truly, DJ Reds, and my boy, Mr. B. Sophisticated Saturdays, every third Saturday of the month, 6254 Memorial Drive is where the grown people go and have good, clean fun. Every third Saturday of the month, man. The way you make me feel, I'm just going to have fun. I'll see you there. Sophisticated Saturdays. I got you.
Hey now, hey now, hey now. Hey everybody, it's me, it's Stacy Woods, your host. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Reading to Feed the Mind. I'm all excited because today we are going to have our first book discussion. And I tell you, I have a couple of people on Zoom. I have someone in the studio with me that holds a special place in my heart. And no, it's not the author, Sonny Hostin, but someone just as dear or more. So anyway, we're going to jump right in. I know we're a little behind on the schedule. So today we are talking about the book, and we're going to discuss the book Summer on the Bluffs by Sonny Hostin. And go ahead and give you your warning now. We are discussing everything in the book. It's a full book discussion. So if you haven't read it, hopefully we'll get you excited enough to read it, because, you know, we're not going to cover everything. So there'll still be some things that you'll be able to get in. So to kick us off, I know we have Shondo. Welcome, Shondo. Thank you. I know Leisha is coming. And thank you for patiently waiting on us. We were a little behind. Well, I was. Whatever. Anyway, so we're here and we're thankful. And I want to introduce my heart before I knew how to have hearts. I couldn't have. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something. She's going to roll her eyes. So when I was growing up, Baby Alives were the dolls. Right? And I would just want a Baby Alive. I wanted a Baby Alive. It was a little bit out the budget, so I never got one until January 3rd, 1977.
Wow. Thanks.
Okay, it's all right. I got my actual Baby Alive. So I would babysit because I was like 10, 11 years old. So during the summer, I would babysit, and she was my Baby Alive. I'd wash her hair. I'd do all that fun stuff. But anyway, she holds a special place in my heart, along with the other two that's out there. Y'all know who you are. But she's here with me, so that's why I'm talking about her. But anyway, I want y'all to welcome my cousin, Kwanda, who is here to discuss the book with us. I don't know if we've done split screen, but you're going to see. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, she's here. I got two screens I'm looking at. I'm sorry. But anyway, so Kwanda is here. She is my heart, and she's an avid reader, which whether she wants to give it to me or not, I'm going to take credit for some of that. Her mother was an avid reader, and she and I would read a lot and talk about different books, and she was one of the original members of the Amani book club. Okay, Shondo, mute your phone. Let me mute her. I'll mute her. Okay, I heard somebody talking. All right, okay. So she and I used to talk about books, so I think Kwanda seeing her mom and seeing me always talk about book, we passed it off on her. So she was on an avid roll this year. How many books did you say you were trying to read this year?
Well, last year I read like 36 books?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, about 36 books.
Yeah, well above me, but glad for you. Yep. So anyway, so I was excited because actually she and I read Summer in the Bluffs. We decided we were going to read it, and we talked about it some. So that's why I wanted to make sure I had her here with me so we could talk about it again and talk about it a little deeper. And on Zoom, I have my girlfriend Shonda Williams is on. Leisha is coming. So Shonda, we ready anytime you are for you to show your face so you can be, hey, there you go. Hey, Shonda.
She disappeared.
She's there. She's disappeared. But anyway, so I'll start off and just give a basic synopsis of the book. Summer on the Bluffs was Sunny Hostin's first novel. And it's about an older couple, an older affluent couple, and they had property on Oak Bluff. They had purchased property on Oak Bluff. And what Sunny Hostin most recently said on The View one day when her third book now has come out. This is a series. This is the first of the 3 books. And she was saying how she wanted to really make people aware of the black population at the Hamptons and Oak Bluffs, which is the other
Martha's Vineyard?
Martha's Venue, but because there are black communities there. And, when I first heard of Martha's Vineyard, it was something, something on TV with, white people and all of that. And you don't automatically think that there's a whole black community. So that's what she's trying to make people aware of. So this community, and when she's referencing these communities, they are true to my knowledge. Yeah, they are, right? They are. So there is an actual Oak Bluff. So that's the premise of it. So Amelia Votana, and she went by Alma, and her husband Omar were wealthy. Amelia was, they called her the Witch of Wall Street. So she was big in Wall Street with the whole trades and the financial industry. And Omar, what did Omar do?
He was a lawyer.
Yes, that's right. Omar was a lawyer. And so they never had children of their own because she was career-minded. When she moved to New York from Louisiana, so she was originally from Louisiana, and she moved to New York, to pursue her dreams of being, prominent in Wall Street. So that's where, that's how. And so she met Omar in New York as well, and they fell in love, and so they got married, successful couple, and what they would do is they lived the life. And so what happened, Amelia had a close girlfriend. Lauren is Billy's friend.
Her friend was Libby.
Her friend was Libby.
Yes.
So Amelia meets Libby, and they are really, good friends. Libby is wealthy because, when she first moved to New York, she stayed in a home for women. Yes. And it wasn't a bad home. It was just at that time, which would have been like in the late 60s, early 70s, that's what they had in New York. They had homes where women...
like border homes.
Like kind of a boarding home, and they would rent a room, and they had all these, rules that they had to abide by and things like that. And so that's where she stayed when she was in New York, and that's where she met Libby, because they were kind of roommates, off roommates, and they became the best of friends. And one summer, Libby brings Amelia to their home in I don't know why, I always want to say Water's Edge.
But it's a part of Martha's Vineyard
Martha's
that Libby
Vineyard.
was from as well.
I don't know why I can never remember that it's Martha's Vineyard. It just goes out my mind. But anyway, and that's when she first got the idea of that's what she wanted for herself. And then when her and Omar got married, they were affluent, and that's what they did. They purchased a home in Oak Bluffs, which was the black community on Martha's Vineyard. And it was so funny because she and Libby were really close, and Libby just swore she was black. She was always like, I know I got black in me or whatever. And so then, before you know it, time has passed on, and now she's in her 40s after they had gotten married, and so the possibility of children were kind of like, okay, out the window. And so she and Omar start with Perry. And they adopted. They didn't adopt. They became kind of like
godparents.
Godparents. They were godparents to Perry. They brought her on the first year, and then the second year, I always get Olivia, because Billy was the baby. And then the second year, they brought on Olivia, and then the third year, they brought in, a couple of years down, they brought in Billy. So they literally, and all these girls were probably between the age of 11 and 13 or something when they first started being their godparents. And so they gave them the world. They gave them exposure, and they would bring them up every summer. They would spend the summer with them. They traveled to France. You know, they gave them a wealth of exposure, culture exposure, as well as educative exposure. So now throughout this book, in the beginning, you keep going, so how did they just arbitrarily pick these girls, right? Did you find you were doing that?
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering, like, why these particular young ladies, like, what was the history behind why, you know? So it was almost like kind of like a guess what more also as well as like a drama, you know? But I was always trying to figure out something as well, like the story behind the story.
And then if you anything like me, you really writing the story as you read, because they'll give you a little bit of clue. And then you say, oh, you know what? That was probably one of Omar's. One of these girls probably Omar's. Right. You know, especially because they would be, oh, she's just my favorite or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to come out. It's going to come out that, you know, hey, it's that it's going to come out that one of those girls going to be Omar's. Right. Right? All right. So, okay, I want to just take a minute. Hi, Paul. How you doing? Greetings from NYC. All right, NYC in the house. Hey. And then we got Rebel Moss. Hey, Rebel. Hey, how you doing? Anyway, so and then they start bringing, and so now that all the three goddaughters are there, we just through the years we're seeing their lives progress. So what were your initial thoughts outside of kind of trying to figure out how or why? Did you think that was kind of realistic that they would do that just arbitrarily for three girls?
Well, I don't know if I thought if it was an issue with, you know, reality, because, you know, with them being, you know, rich and her being so career-minded, I could guess, you know, yeah, she wanted to kind of help some young ladies out. But I, like you were saying, I thought maybe it was something that had something to do with maybe Omar having a child later, especially with Olivia looking so much like him, they will always say. But, I mean, I just kind of left it open to try to, even though I was trying to figure it out, but I was still trying to allow myself to let the book reveal the truth, if you will.
Okay. And so then the girls are growing up, and they're progressing through life. So I got a couple of questions that I wanted to ask, so I'm just going to flip over and get to the questions. So how do you think the characters of Alma, Olivia, Billy, and Perry evolved throughout the story? How do you think their characters evolved?
I think she did a really good job with evolving the characters from like, and I have a little bit more background in it because I also have already read the second book. So it even progresses a little bit more with the second book. But I think she did a very good job with, you know, developing the characters. There were some things that I didn't like, only because I just feel like those archetypes and stereotypes are always kind of brought up in certain characters. But, I mean, overall, I thought she did a really good job.
Okay. Yeah, and I did too, because, and I like the way she kept their family pulled into the story. So it wasn't like, okay, we're the godparents and all we're hearing about is Perry, Billy, Olivia, and Amelia and Omar. They gave us reference points of their actual parents. Right. You know, because Billy's mom, she was of a single mother. Billy had her mother was single. Her father was a policeman.
Well, no, that's Olivia. Billy was a single father.
Okay.
Because the mom wound up leaving.
Yes.
Right.
So, yes, Billy was the single father. The mother left her. And then
Olivia had the single mother whose dad died.
Yes. Yes. And then Perry had both parents, but they were adopted. She was adopted. So that, you know, like I said, it was like she was throwing kind of hints in there along with, you know, that made you go, huh, now I wonder. But like you said, you let the book reveal itself. So now you what do you think about the whole setting with Oak Bluffs? Do you think it contributed to the overall mood of the story? Do you think it helped? Because they were in New York just as well as in Oak Bluffs, which I think that was a good blend. But do you think it had any other effect or appeal on the story?
I think it did, just to kind of explain, number one, their wealth with being able to have a second home out there in the Bluffs, because this is a very prominent historic neighborhood for Black people. I think she talks about how it goes past 100 years of history out there. And then also, just based on what one of the characters said, I mean, you can speak about this if you want, but how she was saying, like, being out here in the Oak Bluffs, and I don't know if you remember, but she and Olivia and Perry had like this big fight, and it does go back to her experience, Olivia's experience with dating versus Perry's, and she talks about how being out here in the Bluffs with these brown-skinned men, and they ignoring her because she's a darker-skinned woman, and how she wanted to move somewhere else, like because she didn't feel like she was,
in place,
or what she looked like was valued.
So overall, that was going to be, that's cultural and social context,
right?
Because she struggled with that,
right?
And I guess I could imagine how that. Well, I know how it feels, because in that time era specifically, as young people now, I don't know that the whole dark skin, light skin color thing is as prominent as it was back then. But I got tickled when she talked about that, because I forget where they were, and she was eyeing, looking at some guys, and she honestly thought this guy was getting ready to come over and talk to her, which I think he did, but then it was enough just so she could introduce him to Perry.
Yeah.
And, and I can understand how she felt, but and I think what I did, because I went through that, because I got tickled. I really did, because I experienced the same thing in high school. Our cousin Denise, we went to high school together, and we would get on the weekends, we would get dressed, go to Greenbrier Mall. Hey, Atlanta people. Greenbrier Mall was our hangout. And so, I'd go and put my little Vaseline on my lips, because, couldn't wear makeup and stuff like that. But I'd have try to make sure I had on some earrings and my hair all together in a cute little outfit. And Denise, who is lighter than I am, we're the same age, same body shape. I'm just a little taller than what she was. And I experienced that very thing. We would be in the mall and walking through the mall and stuff. Now, mind you, I just said how dressed up or whatever, tried to be cute I had done. Denise, because she had the long hair, would just brush her hair back, and the back would be poofy, and she'd have on just some jeans and a shirt. And be like, yo, Redbone, let me talk to you. And I'd just be like, really? And then I would be the afterthought, right? But I never fought with her over that,
right?
Because I knew it was them. I knew it wasn't her, and I was just like, oh well, I think.
And that's what, I sorry to interrupt you, but that's one of the things that I was saying that I didn't like with the archetypes, them creating like drama with the two women, based on color or whatever. When, I mean, that hasn't been my experience either. But it's like all the time when it's talked about in books or if it's in media, it's always seemed like there's a fight between the two women because of that.
Yep.
Instead of them addressing the colorism that maybe the men have, or maybe they're sitting there discussing it. So I don't know. It's just, that just kind of irritated me. I was like, why would she be angry with her sister, about that?
Because I don't know. I mean, and I didn't, because, and let me, and I'll tell you why I stopped. In the beginning it was like, well, dog, you does, because it makes you feel bad, because you don't feel like you are as accepted, right? But I tell you, when I got over it, acne season, when we were all going through our acne, and I would look at the lighter skinned people and how you could they would be walking around with all these red blotches on their face. And then I was like, whew, I didn't have acne as bad, but even when I did, my pimples didn't stand out as much. So once I went through that, I was like, never mind. I'm being silly, but I'm being truthful. That's how I kind of was like, I'm proud of the skin I'm in. It's a good and bad and everything.
Right.
And again, I knew it was more the men.
Right.
But but it is a truth. It is a really truth especially for our generation. It is a truth on these jobs. And I have a girlfriend, and I had never heard anybody admit this. And I thanked her for it. And she talked about how she had been in some situations because she's tall and she's light, lighter skin. She has an afro now, but you imagine her hair used to be longer. And she recognized it. I have never talked to anybody in corporate who admitted to that they saw that light skin privilege. Okay. Kind of like that white privilege, that light skin privilege. And she was like, yeah, and I knew it was there, but, I didn't. And I thanked her because I had never heard anybody really admit it. But again, I don't think it was anything because she had the love and family. Right. They treated her the same. And I think that's why we don't feel it because we got a blend. Right. We got a blend. We got the light and middle and then the dark. So and I think in our family, we've never had to, I've never felt it in my family, and I don't think you did either.
No, just like with Olivia's mom, how she was saying about her hair and that she, was making reference to her skin color. That has never been my experience with our family.
Not with our family. Yeah. So I think when you rooted in it like that, if your family loves you, then you just ignore everybody else. So having not had that in our family. Thank you, family. Jackie is usually on. I guess she didn't get a chance. She's probably prepping for tomorrow.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah. So that was something that was, now let's talk about the ladies' relationship. Right? Okay. The romance. So Perry's husband, help me with his name.
What was his name? Was it Damon?
Damon, yes. Okay. Perry's husband, Damon, was wonderful, right?
No.
Well, I mean,
he wasn't bad.
He loved her. Yes. He made his mistakes. Yes. But he loved her. Right. And that was prominent and evident in everything he did. And now, I can understand. So Perry was married. Of the 3 goddaughters, Perry was
the married one.
She was the married one. They were trying to have children, but they couldn't, which was a strain. And I think as she goes on, after they go through their little incident and everything, and they do the partial separation, and Amish, something she said about him, and I was like, well, that wasn't fair to Damon, because she was talking about how being around him made her feel so relaxed, and she didn't feel the pressure, and she didn't feel the pressure of them. And I was like, well, that was more on you than
because
Damon,
she was trying to have
because she was trying to have a child. And he was like, okay, he was for it, so it wasn't like he was against it or anything. But it was that was. So watching that relationship expound, and so we said we was going to discuss everything. So Damon has these college friends. One is a male and one is a female, and so Perry doesn't care for either one of them that much because his male friend
disrespects her, calls her his bitch wife.
Yes, she heard a message where he read a text where he said that. And he's single because they were all in college together, and he was the single playboy, da-da-da-da-da, and Damon was the more settled one. But he held on to the relationship after they came out of college and after they got married. And she had issues with it. She just didn't like him because she felt he was disrespectful. And then so what happens is somebody, was it Billy or Olivia?
What's the question?
That saw him out with the girl.
So there was like this Facebook posting of the young lady he went to medical school with being pregnant, and it was like some jokes going around that made it seem like he was possibly or could possibly be the father of the child. But, of course, he cleared that up later. But then the other part of that is that he actually lied to Perry about where he was going to be on that particular day. I think he said he was going to be at a conference or something, and he actually went to the shower while she was having to deal with trying to deal with infertility, like going to the doctor's office or something like that. So that was an issue. And then when they were having their big argument, when she specifically asked him, could he he told her it was a possibility that could be several guys that could be the dad, because she really didn't know who it was. But when she kind of straight up asked him, he was kind of evasive about it.
He was. He didn't give her the answer at first.
Right.
This was after months of separation that he finally broke down and told her everything. Yeah. And so, so now she going through her issues with him, and then you got a mesh sniffing around and tipping around and being everything to her that she needed. Prince Charming being everything to her that she needed at that time. And then here it is, Damon has lied to her about where he was, and then he's being vague when she's trying to get him to clarify.
And one most important thing, even though that's his friend from college, he's not checking his friend for disrespecting his wife.
Yes.
And I think that was one of the things that really annoyed her. Like, your friend is so comfortable with disrespecting your wife, even though he may not be doing it in her face. But the fact that you're not checking him, like, hey, don't talk about my wife like that.
That he was comfortable enough to send that text about your, bitch wife. Yeah. And so that let her know, like you said, that he was allowing it. So I can understand how so it was a lot of stuff. Lack of communication. Y'all, they say it's prominent. You got to, be truthful and tell, answer questions and stop being vague, because when you're vague and then the truth comes out, which is what happened in this case, even though he finally really laid it out to her that he and the girl they dated in college. Yeah. They actually had a relationship. And what she was so mad about is, now here you are, I'm picking up that it's something more between y'all than just friends, and you making me feel like I'm the fool.
Gaslighting.
You making me feel like I'm the fool, and now you telling me that all this time, all these years, I was on to something. No, now you're not sleeping with her now, but at one point you were, because he admitted he was in love with her, and he ended up catching her and the friend
together.
in bed together, because it was a casual relationship. But he started having feelings for her or whatever. And then so after that happens, they get through it, and he just know and realize that she is not the one for him. But then she realizing, I made a mistake. I'm missing out on a good man. And I think that would be some of what she was picking up what Perry was picking up whenever she was around, that there was still something that she now realizing that, hey, is something there. So, so that's Perry and Damon and their relationship. Let's talk about Omar. We should have started with Omar and Amelia. What did you think about their marriage? Now, that was love.
Well, that's how it was presented, but then you find out in the end, like, he had an extramarital affair. But so I just thought it was weird how she was just like going on and on about, he's the love of my life, blah, blah, blah. And then you later meet Carter, that actually was the love of her life, but she was scared to actually live the kind of like the roaming life with Carter. And she settled for Omar because he was. But
I still think she loved Omar, though.
I'm not saying she didn't.
And he loved her.
Yeah. But, I can't speak on it like you guys can who are married. I mean, hey, because I was going to ask with Perry and them, I wanted her to leave Damon and go with, his name was Anish. Yeah, Anish or Nakish or something like that.
Okay,
sorry, I was like, ooh, choose him. But, hey, I'm not married.
So when you're married, and I'm not trying to say it's right, and I know people, because I know it's hot, because I used to be that way when I was younger. When you marry, infidelity is not something I'm going to be okay. No. When you're going in, when it happens, though, it's kind of like, it's so many other factors around. You can, but you can't just hire them out. Because you got too many other factors to consider when they get to that. Why? What was my role in it? And oftentimes, lady, I'm not saying, it's an excuse. It's never an excuse, but we're human. People are going to make mistakes. And sometimes it may not even be infidelity. It's other things that can be detrimental to marriages. Your family, the mothers and the in-laws can truly ruin a marriage. It's in a marriage, it's a lot of forgiving. It's a lot of compromise, and it's a lot of, okay, you know what? Gonna let that go because I know he lying. Right. And I'm not even talking about infidelity. I'm talking about simple stuff. Gotcha. Like I'm on my way, I'm right around the corner, and they still don't come home for 30 minutes because they knew they were further down the street than what they're telling you. Right. So it's stuff like that, right? And so that's why I say nobody is perfect, and I'm not saying that you never let anybody abuse you, right? So no, you don't stay with anyone. Well, he cheated this time. Let me deal with it. No, you deal with it. He has to work for it back. Right. And that's what that's really what she was doing because she never really wanted a divorce. Right. But in the beginning, she was like, no, I'm just going to make him sweat and think about this. And I'm just going to, because you got to process the whole thing. And mind you, he did not cheat. He only just did not tell her who this woman really was in his past. Right. They had nothing going on. Yeah. But he just didn't communicate right. He didn't communicate it effectively. Right.
Well, I was talking about Omar that actually cheated.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
We find out later in the book that he actually did.
Oh, yeah. He did.
Because they were talking about, we want a marriage like, our godparents, because they always held the guys or their relationships to the status of Amma and Omar.
Because they're so perfect. Yes. Everything is so, nothing is ever perfect.
And so it's revealed later.
Yes. Generally, it's nothing that's really perfect. So, hey, DJ Silent. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Suzanne, for joining from Canada. All right. Thank you, Canada. And we do have to remember, and I don't say this a lot, so I'm going to take just a brief minute to recognize my international listeners. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're in Canada. We're in Jamaica. St. Thomas, I'll be there. Woo, in the next couple of days. I leave Friday. I'm doing the cruise. So if you hear somebody talking, you recognize my voice, give me a hug. I'm coming your way. Let's see, St. Thomas, oh, Lord, Amber Cove. I'm so bad. San Juan. And I can't think of the next one. No, I'm talking about where I'm going on my cruise. So if you hear my voice or if you watching the show on TV and you see my face, just walk up to me gently. Don't just run because you might scare me. Because, okay, this is something I discovered about myself. I sing. I can get up and sing in front of 1,000 people because I'm a ham, right? But when you come up to me after I sing, telling me, my whole insides, I'm just like this, like, And I found out that it's a lot of artists that's like that. Oh. So when you meet someone that you've admired for years, if that initial, hey, when you walk up to them, if they look a little standoffish, sometimes it's that anxiety and that fear that's inside of you. Anyway, back to the book. But I thank all my listeners in the Caribbean. No, I'm American, but I like the Caribbean. So anyway, so back to the book. So now we've talked about Amelia and Omar and Perry and Damon. We never, okay, now let's talk about
Olivia, the second one.
Olivia, the second one.
Again, they always have this particular characterization, archetype, struggling in relationships, the dark skin. Lovely young lady. So there was a situation where she met this guy that lived, I think they met at the gym, found out they lived in the same.
That was hilarious.
Apartment complex. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
I forgot how long they dated.
They dated for a while because I think it was like a whole season. So I can't remember whether it was summer or whatever, but they were really going on for a while, and then
he ghosted her.
He started to ghost her and all of that, and she did not know until she ran into him.
And his fiance, that was half white. So, so then that kind of fed into her insecurities some more regarding her skin color and how she looked and, not getting the acceptance or treated, well. Yes. And her attributing that to what she looked like.
But then what ends up happening to her?
So then,
the irony of it all.
well, I mean, yeah, she winds up, which I kind of had an issue with this not because he was Caucasian, but because he was working class and she's a stockbroker and very rich.
Ooh, we can't get in this conversation with her. Pass it on.
No, but I'm just saying it's always that particular woman or archetype. I'm just going to keep saying it. I know I probably sound a little bit repetitive, having to date down, But, I mean, I'm just saying in books and in movies, when you see it, it's kind of always like that. Like it's not very seldom. I mean, it's very seldom that you see them kind of dating up or being hypergamous is another term for it.
We got to look that word up. I know I do.
I mean, it turns out interesting. That's why I really think we should push to finish the series.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what we're going to, okay, so we'll take a pause.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do, you all. After this one, our next book is going to be Summer in the...
on Sag Harbor.
Yes, Summer on Sag Harbor. That's book 2. Mm-hmm. So we're going to before we leave, we'll set a date. Don't let me leave. Set a date for... when you should have it read by, and we just gonna finish out the series,
right?
Because the third book is out now. We might as well. You don't need to go into nothing else when they're all right here. Right. So the next book is Summer on Sag Harbor. Summer on Sag Harbor, and that's following Olivia. Because who went?
It reveals more of Olivia and Billy. Okay. And it continues the story of Perry as well, but we kind of get the end of Perry's story in a sense of who she is and where she's from in this particular book. Okay. But there's a little bit more with the other young ladies in the second book, and then just from reading the third, like the synopsis of the third book, it focuses more on Olivia and kind of the history behind her dad's family, if you will. Okay. Yeah, which is very interesting as well.
Okay. All right. So, yes, we are going to pick up Summer in Sag Harbor. Okay. And that'll be our next book club discussion. So, all right. So, now.
Our guy is nice. He's a comedian.
Yes, he
up
is.
and coming. That's just like my little kind of hang up with things. But, he,
we
for
have
the
long
most
discussions, y'all. We can't get into this one. No.
But, he's very respectful. He treats her very respectfully, like he desires her. I didn't. You know how they like to say that these men like what is that? I can't say the word. Fetishize these women or like
look it up.
But you don't get any of that out of it. Of it, you really truly feel that he is like into her. And, she talks about how she's never felt that in any type of relationship that she's had. And they're like, these girls are now in their late 20s.
Yes.
So it was nice. I liked it.
Now, what I didn't like about it, and he was funny and he was cool. I just didn't like the colloquialism, if I said it right. It's like that just goes all down my skin. Mm-hmm. And so, when he was coming around, remember he would come around when he came... when she invited him to come, and he was like, yeah, Mom. And everybody just kind of looked at him. You know, don't do it. Just be white in a black environment. You don't have to sound black. For all my white listeners, I know I got at least 2. But just be yourself. Be yourself. We're not with you for any other reason. Or if you hanging around us, if you're, brought into the culture. And I saw this on TikTok. This white guy was like, I just had the best thing happen to me. I was, my black friends called me. They said I was dating. And he wouldn't say the word, but my nigga. Right. They said that to him. And he was like, oh, my God, that was just the most acceptable thing to be called. And I'm like, okay. But, people were actually chiming in, though, in the chats, saying that it is really true. But just be yourselves. You don't have to use our terms because they don't sound right. Mm-hmm. I don't care how black you think you sound. Mm-hmm. Please know they just didn't tell you, but you sound awful doing it. So that was the thing that I didn't appreciate. And I think after that first summer, when he was walking around with no shoes on, black feet and stuff, and they were like grabbing their pearls, going, what? So that was... That was a thing. So that was the only thing that bothered me. It's like, just be yourself.
Right.
Bro. You ain't got to say all of that. Just
Right.
be you.
But I can
naturally.
appreciate her putting it in there because it was how he was characterized. That's kind of how she revealed his character. So,
How he was.
Yeah.
But he was a comedian. He only dated black women. It wasn't, any little clique or something to try out. That was just who he was.
Yeah.
So, and I did like the way that relationship evolved because, as you said, he was really supportive of her. And now the whole dating down thing, that's her thing. Because I strongly believe, yes, she was in a higher class structure than he was, and he recognized that. He knew it, and he made it plain to her. I could care less. When they went to the restaurant, you remember that restaurant they went to, and it was a friend of his that worked there, and he went ahead and told her, because it was really out of his pay grade or whatever, and he was like, look, my best friend, one of my closest friends work here, so please know if I swipe my card and it doesn't go, she got me. I thought that was cute, the way he clarified for her, so she wouldn't feel like it was a game he was running or she was going to need to pay or anything like that. But I just think you get to a point in your life where you value the companionship and the friendship and the respect over the money. Because some men that's in that higher class range and higher income range won't know how to treat you. Because they, not all, but some, the Kevin Samuels, rest his soul.
I don't think he was in that class.
Well,
I think he was sitting in the basement acting.
But
'Cause if he was-
the messages he was portraying.
I think those were broke messages
Oh,
coming
no,
from
I
men
knew they
who were
were
broke.
And I could never watch him because he reminded me of how I grew up in the boys in high school. That's who he reminded me of, the boys in high school and their mentality and all of that. So I never, and then, the things that I experienced, I think I experienced some of that anguish more from the financial and the status perspective than the color perspective.
Oh, I see.
So that was always my angst when people would, it's like, well, I'm not going to even get on that subject, but that's my thing. So their relationship evolved. She never wrote, well, where was his family? So I don't know that.
So in this book, you don't know.
Okay, so she never had.
He said his dad was a cop and his mom was like a drug addict.
Yeah. And so that's where they had the commonalities because her father
Was a cop.
Was a cop as well, but he died when she was a baby, that's another whole evolution in and of itself. So now the last one, Billy, the baby. I think it was really cool. But they didn't give us enough of Billy to either have an opinion or thought which way she was going to go. But she meets a beautiful woman, and they fall in love. I like their relationship as well because you need someone that's going to support you, but also check you when you're wrong.
Right.
And I think that's what she was good for that. You don't want anybody that's always going to be on your side for everything. You need to be able to be checked when you're wrong. But, and she was a chef. She was a chef.
I forgot her, Delish, or she had a really interesting name.
Yes, she did. It was something like that.
Yeah, Dulce.
Yes, that's what it was. It was Dulce. And she was a chef and kind of eclectic. So I think they were a really good match for each other because what she got from her was this, Olivia, the middle one, had the race thing. But it was something that she got from Dulce, though, that she didn't,
She said she was very positive.
Yeah.
Very positive and had a kind of a positive outlook on life and the outcomes of things.
Yeah, because now Billy was a single mother, and her mother was so hurt.
Single father.
Billy.
She grew up with a single father.
Olivia had the single mother.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so, yeah, and so that warmth, although her father was pretty cool with her, and everything.
But she was a girl that didn't have a mom.
Yeah,
so
she was
I think
a
that's
girl.
a different dynamic.
Yes.
That is maybe expressed in the second book.
Okay, so we got to get to the second book, y'all. So we'll see. But anyway, so there was not a lot. They just had a really good working relationship. Communication. They had a little brief issue. It didn't carry out too long. But Billy was approached by some previous coworkers or colleagues for her to go and support a woman who was running for office in Texas. So now they live in New York, and then they go down to Oak Bluffs during the summer, and now she was being asked to move across country to help support this woman's campaign. So we should have told everybody what each of them did. We did not. No. So Perry always felt like Perry was adopted, and in her mind, she kind of thought, could it be possible that Alma was really her biological mother? So she patterned herself after Alma's life. She went into the financial industry as well.
She was actually a lawyer.
Okay.
Perry was a lawyer, even though she did wind up asking Alma later, and Alma.
Yeah, so it was Olivia
that
who
patterned
herself after Alma and went into the financial industry.
Right.
So Perry was a lawyer. Olivia had made a successful career in the financial industry, and
Billy was a scientist,
oceanography,
something like
that.
Yeah,
she was in that field some kind of way. So that's what all of their careers were. So then I don't know how the lady ended up. She was a scientist because the woman she was running for a position that was about
saving the planet.
And that's why she wanted her support in that. So anyway, global warming.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is she was asked. So Billy never told Dulce, and then Dulce she's now getting ready to get a promotion for a job that's on the Bluffs in that area, and she's all excited. Then she runs across this text where the guy is texting Billy asking her if she's gonna come to Houston because it's waiting on her. And he had this really kind of, you could have read it either way, the text, and so she blows up and gets all upset. And at the same time, Billy is getting ready to propose to her. So they had to take a gap in their relationship for a minute.
And Dulce actually proposed to Billy.
Yes, because Billy was going to, but then Dulce, she told her she was going to get ready. She was about to ask her.
Okay.
Yeah, and then eventually, but they worked through it.
Yes.
And so they worked through everything. And then now we're deep into the book by this point. And by this point, we hear, so Omar is not in their lives as adults because he passes away in their teenage years. So there's a lot, at this point, there's a lot of reference to him. It's like, so if we're watching the movie, you got those scenes that switch back to when he was alive and then now, when they're reflecting and stuff. So, so anyway, and we missed a part. So the whole premise of the book was Amelia was having the girls to come because they were grown, so they didn't spend full summers anymore in the Bluffs. They would pop in, pop out, and visit throughout the year or whatever. So Amelia has reached the age where she's ready to give the house to one of the girls. And so she invites them to spend a full summer with them. And then, by the end of the summer, she's going to say who the house is going to. So, they're trying to figure out, well, who's going to get the house. And everybody just know it's going to be Perry that's going to get the house, right? So anyway, so we're getting in the beginning of the book and throughout most of the book up until probably how many chapters is it in all?
I think it's 43 or something.
So just so you know, when you're reading, you don't really get to understand who everyone is until well into chapter 30. In the mid to late 30s is when she starts to unfold, because now it's time to go to each of them and disclose the secret of how they really all connected.
Why she chose them.
And why they were chosen.
About in the beginning.
Because throughout the book, and it's not real heavy because you get wrapped up into the story of them. You get wrapped up in the story of them, and you following along in each of their lives. So then you start to forget. You're no longer questioning too much at that point because you're just accepting a fact that, hey, maybe they just reached out to these girls, and you think it's so beautiful because they paid for their college education. They had trust funds set up for them. They laid out their lives. Those girls didn't have to want for anything. So, a couple lived in Brooklyn. One was from the Bronx. And so, excuse me. And so by this point, so now Alma it's time for Alma as the summer is ending and you're getting ready to find out who's going to get the house. Right. So Alma is explaining to them and presenting to them, the stories of how they actually decided to have them. And so she starts at the beginning with Perry, right?
Yeah, because Perry comes to her and asks her, "Are you my mom?"
Yeah, so it starts when Perry does, because Lauren is Perry's friend. So this is the similarities of everything. Again, why you would think that, okay, maybe Perry, maybe she is or something. But what happens is Perry has a close white friend, Lauren, who swears she's black, and she has to, throughout the book, she's constantly reminding her, you white, right? And she was like, girl, I just got to do my test because I know I got some black in me somewhere, So it's one of those. And I appreciated her because she was just being herself. Right. She wasn't, and the narrator did a wonderful job. She did a really good job. I forget her name, and I got to write it down.
You're saying the one who did the ebook?
Yes.
Not the ebook, but the audio.
The audio.
Yes.
The audio version. She really did. Hey, Candy. She really did a really good job with doing the different voices. And it wasn't anything extreme, but so I appreciated that she was still, just a white girl who felt like she had more relation to black than she did white herself. But anyway, and I thought that was interesting because Amelia had Libby and Perry had Lauren, as their close, white girlfriends. And so anyway, she tells her, I want to ask her because I feel like there's something, that maybe she is, because she had hoped that she was. So she goes to Amelia and asks her, and she's like, mon cher. I love that. Mon cher. She's not, and she wasn't. But then she explained who her mother really was. And as it turns out, because early in the story, we do find out that Libby did her, Amelia's best friend, the white woman, Libby, had passed of breast cancer. So we knew all of that in the beginning.
No, actually, she revealed it when she gave, it's like it was revealed to us as Perry learned, because she was reading a letter.
But I mean, she referenced it early in the book that Libby had died.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, she did. Oh, okay. We did know that Libby had died early on in the story. Okay. Of breast cancer, but we just, and for me anyway, it was like, oh man. Okay. And we moved on. Okay. But then when Perry comes to her and asks her if it's her mother, then that's when she gives her the envelope. Okay. And then Perry lets us know, because we know Perry's adopted, but she really doesn't touch on it. Perry never really discusses it too much through the beginning of the story. And she is talking about, that she really didn't want to know. So whenever that subject did come up briefly, she always explicitly said she didn't care. She didn't want to know, because she really felt like Alma might have been her mother. So anyway, when she confronts her, Alma gives her the envelope, and it has these letters in it, because we find out Libby was her mother. And it was a man, an African, he was a diplomat that she had an affair with. Now, and it wasn't an affair. Oh, they were dating, and then she found out
that he had a fiance.
That he had a fiance from an assigned marriage. Right. And so she let him go, because I think he was a little younger than her, too.
Yeah, I think he was
about 10 years.
I think he was in his late 20s, and by that time she was in her 40s.
Yeah, it was
over 10.
Yeah, it was over 10. So, and she was like, she just let him go. But then when she finds out she's pregnant with his child, but she raises him, and then close to delivery or right after she delivers her, she finds out she has breast cancer. And so she writes all of these letters explaining to her, and the letters were beautiful. We only read one. She only read one to us, but it was a beautiful letter where she made sure she understood that she was loved and she was never given up. But then we find out, because what we don't say, so years earlier when Amelia first comes to Martha's Vineyard with Libby, their parents were wealthy and had this massive land of the different houses. They had like 3 different houses on their land. And so anyway, Perry is reading this letter and finds out that she was, who her mother is now. So now she knows who her mother is, who her father is. But one part of the letter where Libby explains to her, I've asked Amelia to raise you. And so now Perry is like, now she asked you to raise me and you gave me up. And so that was, there was a little contention with that. And Amelia just explains to her, look, I had to be true to myself.
Right.
I made sure, and she had conservative black adoptive parents. And, she didn't really get a chance to live a, free really life because they were conservative. But she had a good life. She didn't want for anything. She had love. And so, Amelia had to explain to her, look, I had to live my life. And that was fair. She made sure she was with someone who was going to love her, take care of her. And then she stepped into her life when around 10, 11, so, and she was a part of her life. So it was a little stressful.
Yeah.
But, eventually they get through it.
Right.
So that was Perry's story now. Now we understood the connection of her and Amelia. She was
Alma. I've done
well,
that
yeah,
too.
but her real name is Amelia. They called her Alma for short.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next person is Olivia that we reveal.
Yeah, and
Get
so
her
now
story.
Olivia, and I keep getting Olivia and Billy. Olivia was the single mother
Whose dad was a cop.
whose dad was a cop. Now this gets juicy.
Yes.
So then, so Alma tells Perry's upset and sulking, right? So now she has to go to the next one. And the next story is Olivia whose father. And so then we find out that the story behind Olivia was through Omar. So Omar was an attorney, and they had this young police officer who was a snitch. I mean, I couldn't think of the proper term. But he knew that the other police officers were doing a lot of dirt.
Yeah, it was something about the pension, and
The
I think it
pension.
was losing money, and so I think the head of the police department went and hired this law firm, and because Omar was black and the
Officer.
officer was black, or the informant was black, then that's
the
why
word I
they
was
came
looking
to.
for. That's the word I was looking for.
That's why.
It's the wine, y'all. We drinking wine. I didn't get a chance to bring food, but we do at least have the wine. Okay.
That's why they went to Omar, because he was that token guy.
Yes.
That they
And
could pair it with the informant. And so there was this other guy, Chip or somebody. I don't know who.
Another attorney.
Another attorney who had come from a rich family, who Omar wanted to be accepted by.
Yes.
And he would never really accept
Invite
him or
him
invite
or
him
anything.
anywhere.
And they were on the same levels,
Uh-huh.
making the same money, but he would never invite them. He
Right.
would talk to them, and they had a decent relationship at work. Like those relationships we have with those people we cool at work, but I ain't never inviting you to nothing. Y'all know.
So what I thought was interesting, and we'll get back to the story, but the need for him, I guess, those of us that work in corporate America, if you guys have any comments to make, but I just thought it was so interesting at the level that Omar was, all that he accomplished, the lady he was married to, what she accomplished, he still had that need to be accepted by this white guy who he knew was not even that bright and smart, because they talk about it in the book. But he still needed that acceptance from that guy, which is why then he in turns at the last minute accepts, this invitation that was, at the last minute disrespectful. And he thought, oh, it's strange that this guy wants to hang out with me. But I'm asking this question just to see, like, have you guys felt that way, or, you worked your way to this level, but you still need some type of acceptance or approval from these white people.
So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
In the story. So they asked Omar to do the disposition, and he said, oh, I know he must be black if they asking me to do it.
Right.
But because it was such a high profile case, and he was, being the informant on something, that bold, that blue commitment, you know, hey, my blue brothers, I'm not, you don't turn against or tell on your brothers. And so because they knew it was to this level, Omar they asked him, don't disclose his name, don't disclose anything. So like you said, he was in a situation where this guy, he had never, we over? Anyway, this guy had never, you didn't tell? Okay, this guy, all right, we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Anyway, so this guy had never accepted him, and he wanted the acceptance. So now out of the blue, he's done the deposition, and he's now, you know, going through and stuff, and this guy comes to him surprisingly and invites him out, and he was like, oh my God, he's finally inviting me out. He gets caught up in that, and so then the guy says to him, so how's that case going? And he gets, you know, not thinking, he gets Omar to give the police name of who is the informant, and he wasn't supposed to do it, and of course, you know what happens. The man gets killed. Just all of a sudden, he gets killed in the line of duty, and there's no way he can prove that him telling the attorney his name had anything to do with it, but he always knew it did, and that burdened him to no end. And that's how Olivia, he does everything he can to make sure that this girl is going to be taken care of, because it was his only daughter. He had met the young man, and the young man talked about how much he loved his daughter, shared pictures, and how he was going to have 5 girls and have a basketball team with all girls. You know, he really admired the young man during the deposition. And so after that happens, he carries the guilt. He contributes money to the fund to make sure that the family always had plenty of money. And then they brought Olivia in. And of course, like with the other two, they paid for her college. They made sure she wanted for nothing. And so that's what Amma has to now share with her. And of course, and she loved her, and Omar had a really close relationship, and she always kind of, you know, felt like he was the father she never had. And then when she finds this out, it just blows her away. And she's like, no, I can't believe this. He lied to me. He's the reason why my father is dead. You know, so she, I think out of all 3 of them, she really took it the worst. She took it the worst. Yeah. So then we move on. And so what we later find out with her, after she sulks for a while and then she starts to come back around, he leaves her a key to a storage facility.
And he leaves, other than the house, and I think in New York, and the house in the Bluffs, he leaves his fortune.
Yes.
To Olivia.
So, you know, she has to want for nothing. And, you know, and so that's who ends up getting the house. No. Oh, no. Okay. Ooh, Lord. Okay, so that's Olivia. So now we understand what the commitment was to Olivia.
Right.
So now we're with Billy, the baby. And so Billy is, we're going to have to wrap it up. I'm sorry. But so anyway, Billy is the one, so make it long story short, Billy ends up being Amma's granddaughter, because we find out that Amma in her younger life, that's when she was on her way to New York. No.
Well, she was in Louisiana.
Louisiana.
And she was dating this white guy, and of course, well, it was probably not really dating, it was more casual, but he was like the son of a prominent political person in Louisiana. Of course, couldn't be seen with a black woman, girl, even though she had green eyes and she was very fair. They would go to the movies but have to go in at different times and sneak around. So anyway, she got pregnant. She told him. He was like, okay, what you think we can do? We can't do nothing. Anyway, so then her grandmother sends her to California to have the baby, and she gives it up for adoption.
Okay, so she gives her daughter up for adoption. The girl is adopted, but there's a burden that rests on her. And so then later you find out that her husband, the girl gets married. She was a model. She's traveled the world, and she's battling a little bit with drugs. And so then the husband finds Amelia, Amma, finds Amma and tells her, I think you're her mother. She introduces, he brings her into the girl's life thinking that it's going to really make her do better. But she was never mentally prepared for a marriage. So she just ups and leaves. She writes them a letter. She ups and leaves. So now you got a single father raising a daughter. But now, you know, it's not just raising, because now Amma is there, and they never tell her that she's actually her grandmother, you know, but then that is Billy's connection, and Billy ends up with the house because now it's her grandmother. Right. So it's y'all, we have to wrap it up. It's been a great show. Thank you, Kwanda, for having, but hopefully we shared enough to get you excited. So now, the next book, Summer in the Hamptons. Let's see.
Summer on Sag Harbor.
Summer on Sag Harbor. Sonny Hostin's second book, Summer on Sag Harbor. So this is July 3rd. You got a month. So August, whatever the August 3rd or whatever that date is going to be in August, get your books, everybody. Shondell, thank you for joining. We lost Leisha. She wasn't able to come back. And I know you didn't, I guess you didn't want to.
Is it August 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
So our first book club in the month of August 7th, you got a month. Get your books, y'all. And I want y'all to please join in with me to talk about it. I hope you've enjoyed me and, you know, two book nerds. It was a great conversation. Thank you for joining. And Reading to Feed the Mind, we air every Wednesday, 6:30 to 7:30. You can see us on Caribbean Life TV, Caribbean Life Radio. And I forget the producer. What's the name of the television? Oh, I'm bad. Bacchanal TV. You can see us on there too. So join in, y'all. Join in, please. Thank you for those who were able to join us. Y'all have a blessed day, a safe 4th of July. I won't be here next week. We'll either fill in with someone else's show or we'll do a replay. But I will see y'all on the 10th. Bye. Get your books. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let me tell you who I'm rolling with. I am rolling with the Dot Experiment. I don't know if you ever heard of them before, but the Dot Experiment is here to help you with all your cell phone and computer needs. The Dot Experiment is here for all your tech, all your software problems, whether it's the storage full,